Come on and shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight with your award-winning host, Dale Davidson. Dale interviews fascinating guests from top-ranked celebrities to people just like you who have an important story to tell. For more than 15 years, Dale is broadcast every week from the fabulous Las Vegas Strip. He finds the people who really make Las Vegas a one-of-a-kind city and lets the world know just what's happening in this remarkable town. You'll discover why 50 million people visit the entertainment capital of the world every year. Stay tuned for another exciting episode of Las Vegas Tonight.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. Thanks for tuning in. You'll be really glad you did. Kris Bashford is with us today. He's a fascinating man. He's got a great backstory, a very successful business guy, a Christian, a wonderful person, and we're so glad to have him. Kris, thanks for coming on the show.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah,
Appreciate
Kristen is your official formal name, but nobody calls you that.
Nobody calls you that, except my mother, which God rest her soul.
Yes.
Got rid of that.
Yeah. Let's talk about your mom and growing up in Chicago. You grew up on the south side of Chicago. Tell me about the neighborhood. Tell me about her. Tell me what it was like growing up in Chicago in those days.
Well, we're talking in the 70s, and in the 70s you had a lot of things going around in the inner city Chicago. So yeah, I was born in Mercy Hospital right down there on the south side.
Yeah.
It was a tough environment for a lot of people at that time, and really just what it comes down to for me, even though that's where you start, it does not have to be where you finish.
Yes.
And so my mom, she was a wonderful woman, very good looking lady in her day. And so she had plenty of suitors at that time. Unfortunately, I happened to be in a broken home at that time. And so,
I'm sorry.
But it's okay because, as that saying goes, if it doesn't kill you, it only makes you stronger. And so we definitely had a difficult upbringing in those early years, but things turned. Things turned for me because really the love of Christ.
She was a strong Christian.
Not initially.
Oh,
no.
Really?
My mom, she came to know the Lord as a result of a deathbed salvation.
Really?
And that happened in 1979.
Right.
And she had colon cancer. And at least that's my understanding of it. I was a little young at the time. But
sure.
So as a result of going through battles, for 3 months long in the hospital, she found Jesus through that time. It was a nurse, as I understand it. It was a nurse. It was just somebody else, prayer warriors coming in, and they didn't know her from Adam.
God bless them for doing that.
But they helped her. They helped her understand, gave her a Bible, and she began to read. She began to study and understand right there in the middle of pain, in the middle of trying to recuperate, and that's how she came to know Christ. And one thing that she told us, and I'm the youngest of three boys, she said, at that time, God, I will give you my life 100% if you would give me just 10 more years. And that was in 1979. She actually passed away in 1989.
10 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I believe that she was supposed to go home to be with the Lord, but there's no telling where she would have ended up at that point in her life.
Sure.
But as far as her spirit, and now at this point, I know where she is. Without a shadow of a doubt, I know where she is, and I know those 10 years were the most pivotal years of my life, and it put me and my brothers on a trajectory that we would not have had it not been for her
had she
making
not
poor
been
decisions.
around. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What happened after she passed? Did you go live with someone else, or were you grown up enough by that point that you didn't have to?
Yeah. So actually, prior to that, once the track of our life was public housing in inner city Chicago.
Right.
It wasn't a vacation. You can believe that. It wasn't resort living, if you will. But what happened, we stayed with our grandparents, in particular my grandfather, and let's just say he was a man of the world, all right? He was a man who thought that young men should basically smoke what they want, drink what they want, to be with whomever they want.
Wow.
And that was not the environment that my mother wanted us to be in.
I get it.
And so
This was her dad.
This was her father.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even though he did the best with what he could at that time,
Right.
and he did come to know the Lord much later than that. Thank you, Jesus. But beyond that, she took us out of that environment. We actually moved to a suburb of Chicago, just north of Waukegan, Illinois.
Oh yeah, nice suburb.
Yep.
Yeah, very
Yep.
nice place. Yeah.
And so we moved there, and that's where we began to take our little family and really grow. And that's where she got deeper and deeper into the things of God. They actually called her the Praise the Lord lady in the neighborhood. They did.
Is that right?
Because everywhere she went, she would raise her hand. She would sing Praise the Lord.
Praise
She
the
would
Lord.
sing hymns. And people on the buses, public transportation, didn't matter where she was.
What a great woman.
That was her.
I
And
wish
so,
I knew her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And during every holiday, she would have all the kids in the neighborhood would come to the house. She would, give them candy and treats during the Halloween. And instead of she didn't celebrate Halloween on the 31st. She celebrated All Saints Day on the 1st of November.
Yes.
And that's when all the kids would come in.
Yes, that's right.
She would take care of them, make them sing songs and carols and stuff. Christmas was great. It was fantastic.
Oh, what a great way to grow up.
Yeah, it was at that point. But again, we were still in public housing, still, on state assistance and whatever. And so we had to come out of that. And the Lord gave us the ability to do that. That's where I began to really try to figure out who I was, because by that time it was middle school and high school. And my brothers, we all stuck together, but I was the guy who kind of followed my mother's lead, kind of stayed under her skirt, if you will, and really tried to learn the things of God and study the Bible alongside her.
And church was an important part of your lives?
Huge.
Well, what church did you go to?
So we started in Waukegan, as I shared, and we went to a small Baptist church called Emmanuel Baptist on Grand Avenue.
Sounds great.
And it was a great little church, but it wasn't the fact that the church was so great. It was, to be frank, honest, and looking back on it, was probably considered boring to most kids at the time, and I was no different. But we got to sit in the back row and cut up while the pastor was speaking. So that was important. And of course, we had all the youth group kids and whatever. We had many ushers coming on back there from time to time, and correcting us, taking us outside and chewing us out. And it was okay.
It's the house of God.
That's right. Exactly. We sound just like we go to Brother Jones back in the day. But no, we certainly did that, and that was all part of us growing up, and it was great. But what really did it was after church was over, the fellowship we had in the gym. They kept the gym open for us every Sunday.
There you go.
They had
Athletics.
food for us and whatever, and that's kind of how I began to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was great.
And you were an excellent basketball player, right here.
Some people would say that. I know better. There's many thousands of people better, but I guess I'm still.
Did you play in high school?
I played in high school as a result of being at church. I played in certain youth church leagues and what have you. Really got to know just the game in and of itself. And it was really just parents trying to do the best they can with what they got.
Sure,
but I kind of was one who kind of excelled. And then I went ahead and said, well, I'm good enough in the church leagues. Let me try the actual school leagues. Became really, really strong there.
You look like a power forward.
That's what I was.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly what I was. And so learned a lot about the game, began to study the game under my coach at that time, Coach Phil Jutz in Zion, Illinois. But it was great. It was really, really just a good time of learning for me all through high school, et cetera. And then from there, I decided that was something that was really important to me. As I developed, got stronger and gained more ability, I said, I want to play college. And it was at that point where I started looking around, and I thought I was going to go to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Oh, okay.
And be part of the
Big Ten school.
Big Ten school.
Big time Big Ten.
Absolutely. Back there was anybody who remember the '89 squad who won the national championship.
Yes.
I was hoping to be on that team.
Yes.
I would have been on that team if I had gone, but God had other plans.
Yeah, tell me about that. You ended up at one of my favorite colleges.
Absolutely.
Oral Roberts University.
Oral Roberts University.
ORU, yeah.
Changed my life.
How did that happen? How did you end up there?
So, well, with a praying mother at home and who had different plans for my life. Regardless of what I wanted, she was going to have a say-so, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so at the end of the day, what came down to was, I believe the Lord is telling me you should go to Oral Roberts. Well, I wasn't hearing that at 17,
She was
16,
saying
17.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I was like, no, Mom, I want to go to Ann Arbor. I want to go to Big Blue. I want to be there at the University of Michigan. And
good goal.
She said, no. She said, the Lord wants you to go there.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even heard of what is an Oral Roberts. I had no idea.
It's a strange name.
A strange name.
Yeah,
There's a school named after this person. He's some preacher who barnstormed all over America in the 50s and early 60s. The more I learned about him, and obviously I got to meet him and was close to the family.
Yeah.
But at this point, at that time, I had to figure it all out. And what did it, my grandmother, knowing that my mother said that's where I'm supposed to go, she said, I'm going to pay for your trip down there.
Wow.
And I'm going to help you pay for your first year.
Wow.
And if you go. And so I did go down there. And the thing that got me wasn't the school, wasn't the even though I was definitely engaged in church and wanted to serve the Lord.
Right.
I just didn't want to do it there.
Yeah,
okay,
I understand.
initially.
Sure.
And
Tulsa, Oklahoma is a long way from Chicago.
Thank you. That's the reason. At that time, that's exactly the reason.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was I studied a little bit more about Oral Roberts and found out that they've got a great basketball program.
Oh, okay.
And the coach who was there, who had just returned, he took the team to the Elite Eight in '74.
Wow.
That happened to be Ken Trickey, God rest his soul. But kind of like he's coming back and he's recruiting in Chicago. He's bringing in guys that I played against during my high school years.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I know that guy. Yeah, let me head
I can
down
play
there.
them.
Yeah, I can play with those guys.
Yeah.
And sure enough, since it was Division I athletics, the pinnacle of college basketball, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go there and at least check it out.
Yeah.
And I did. I got to stay there with the team.
The coach was recruiting you at that point?
The coach gave me an open, it was an assistant coach actually at that time, but he gave me an open workout with the team and to basically room with them while I was there on my visit. And it was definitely a place to me. But it wasn't because of the athletics. It was because I went to chapel during that visit.
Really?
And the Spirit of God fell on me.
It's daily,
obviously.
isn't it? Daily chapel?
Twice a week.
Twice a week.
Twice a week, yeah. But again,
I knew it was often.
Yeah.
Way more than I ever went.
Then they have Sundays services as well. Sunday night services. They call that Vespers. And so as a result, after just being immersed in the culture that is Oral Roberts University, I just knew. I said, this is the right spot for me.
Wow.
And so I acquiesced and yielded to my mom's prayers and her direction.
Always a good idea, Kris.
Probably really good. Yeah.
So and you played basketball the whole time you were there?
Actually, no. I had to walk on.
Oh, you did?
All right.
Okay.
And during my freshman year, I actually didn't make it.
Wow.
And then in my sophomore year, I did go out once again, but by that time I was definitely immersed.
Michael Jordan didn't make the first.
That's right. Either. He didn't make it his first. And so, but they allowed me to kind of be around the team and still practice and work out. So I was one of those players that were on the fringe.
Right.
And because they had already promised scholarships, and I understand the business of college athletics now. So, but back then, of course I didn't understand, but I just kept on working on my body, working on my skills. Didn't give up. Went back. And that's when they, in my sophomore year, they said, "Well, we're not going to give it to you again, but you're going to be a provisional athlete for us." So they still didn't give me a scholarship, but I had all the same benefits of a lot of the players at that time. Okay. And then it wasn't actually until my junior year that I was actually,
made the team and you got the scholarship then.
And
good for you.
Scholarships. Yeah,
God bless you for hanging in there.
I hung in there.
Yeah. And you had a couple of good years.
Yeah, I had a couple good years. I was really more of a role player, bench player, and at that time, there were some things that changed where I actually ended up, as a result of the school changed over from NCAA, they had to change to NAIA, and so as a result, I was one of the leaders on the NAIA team. So didn't quite get my
Final Four thing,
right? But that's okay. It was still good. One thing I will share. They actually, during that time, they actually had a transition This was actually in the early 90s by this time. But they wanted to change their mascot, and that had a significant impact on the new mascot that was brought in when they were.
What did they become?
They were the Titans during that time.
Good name.
This year. Yep, the Oral Roberts University Titans, and then they transitioned to the Golden Eagles, which they still are today.
Yeah,
and so
also a good one.
Yep, and so the very first mascot was Eli the Eagle, and I ended up working at an animation studio, and we created the cartoon, and that's what they adopted and had it for 30 years, and it still exists today.
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, congratulations.
Yep.
That's a great
Still
story.
One of those things. It's kind of a namesake
That's
thing.
a great
for me.
story.
Mm-hmm.
My son was a mascot himself, dressed up in
Really?
for that.
Yeah.
Bucky the Bronco at university in the Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Santa Clara University.
Santa Clara. Okay.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
yeah. He would go to the basketball games, and he had a big horse head on at the time.
That's right. See, it's always free there.
Yeah,
See, I was
that's
wondering
right.
if it was going to be one of the Boise State, because they're the Bronx too, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There you go. We have to take a brief break. We'll be back with Kris Bashford in just a couple of minutes. We're going to delve into your current life, your present life, and your views for the future, and a little bit about your faith journey, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
We'll be back with Kris right after this. Hi, I'm Dale Davidson, host of Las Vegas Tonight. You know, radio has an enduring place in the heart of America. Sometimes it's music that can enliven your spirit or keep you company when you need some. More often for me, it's just been the right spoken word or two that can quiet my mind and soul. Radio brings me a reassuring word in the quiet of night, or a welcoming voice early in the morning as I shake off the night's sleep and find my way into God's purpose for my day. And always, I find the best radio station is the one that brings me the best news, the gospel of Jesus Christ. My favorite radio station is KKVV in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's still right where it's been for years, at 1060 on the AM dial, hovering over Sin City like a gospel airship, broadcasting the good news of the abounding love that Jesus Christ has for every single one of us. No matter who you are or where you live, you can receive God's Word via the KKVV Gospel Airship. Just go to kkvv.com and click on Listen Live. KKVV is using all the tools that God's provided them, like podcasting and video streaming and video on demand, to produce programs that lift up our fellow believers and save the lost. If you feel a calling to speak to others about Jesus Christ on your very own show, pick up the phone and call the station. They'll be happy to tell you how. Call KKVV today at 702-731-5588 or drop them an email at kkvvradio@hotmail.com. Please join me in becoming part of the KKVV family. You'll be glad you did. We are so pleased to have with us Kris Bashford, who's a godly man, a very successful business guy, and we're going to talk about both of those things in this segment, if you don't mind. A little bit more about Oral Roberts University. You really kind of discovered on the basketball team and with your faith journey there at the school that you had some leadership qualities.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I have to give a lot of credit to the leadership in the Dean of Men's office, because, again, not having a father growing up, as a young man, you look for father figures in your life. You look for folks that, are aligned with what you believe your faith instills, with, just kind of your core belief system. And I found a group of men, an organization in the Dean of Men's program at ORU that really took me on the journey that I needed to be on at that time. I mentioned earlier that my dear mother passed away when I was a sophomore there.
Oh, okay.
And it was
that'd be tough.
Yeah, and it was the dean of students, Dr. Clarence Boyd, who's still there, He's the one who broke that news to me. And it was very special for me at the time. I was, again, just as a sophomore there, I realized that there was more to life than just college athletics, that the relationships that you build, that's what really is going to, propel you forward in life, the people that you decide to associate yourself with.
Yeah.
And even though, there's an element in every organization, at every school, every business, whatever, that who you should be with versus who you shouldn't.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
And so
And sometimes you drift.
And sometimes you drift, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the Dean of Men's, that unit, that core unit of some 40 men, was really instrumental in my life, in the sense where they helped guide me, knowing that I didn't have any parents now to help guide me through what I know, look back now, is some very, very narrow shoals in my early development. And so they put me in situations where I had to lead, the students on, the current floor that I had. I had to, just part of the student peer council, the student government. We had a voice, for what needed to happen in the school, and so I was kind of the tip of the spear on a lot of that.
Oh, that's great.
And it was good. It helped, mold me into something that I
These
didn't know.
men saw something in you, is what they did.
Yeah, they did. And were it not for them, I honestly don't know what track my life went. Would have gone, especially at that time. They were very instrumental in keeping me engaged with the athletics department, because basically my job was to make sure that those athletes who came in from all parts of the country and with all backgrounds, they did not recruit Christian athletes to come to the university. They recruited athletes.
Right.
And we hoped that at that point that they would find Jesus in their journey there, like I did.
Many did, right?
Many did.
Yeah.
Many did.
Yeah.
And in fantastic ways, and they're still serving God today, many of them.
Yeah.
But that's not where they started.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have influence over them, over men during that time, and to mentor them as their peer. Nothing better than them. I certainly wasn't. Didn't treat them any different. I just wanted to give them guidance and counsel, because in many cases, I had a similar background as them, growing up in the inner cities and having a broken home.
You could relate to them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so met a tremendous number of people, and it just really helped shape my life. One thing that I have to say, if an individual finds themselves in a situation that they don't understand, one of the best things they can do is share it with somebody. Don't hold it in. Don't think that you have all the answers. You don't. You have to share it. You have to get it out, so that then people know to come and assist you and where you need help. Or maybe you'll be that one to minister and help and mentor somebody else. Through your pain, you can find progress.
Yeah.
And that's what, it was certainly the case for me during that time.
Yeah, I've had a couple of friends who also went to Oral Roberts University. One was a baseball player, played for the baseball team, and now he's a pastor and has been for 40 years here in Las Vegas. And another went on a music scholarship, and now he's a singer, very well-known singer here in Las Vegas and elsewhere. And both of them speak so fondly of ORU, I always wanted to go and see it, and of course I can't meet Oral Roberts anymore, but I always wanted to see it myself. What a great experience.
Still there, it's getting better every day. Being an alumnus of the university, it's great to see the things that are happening there under the new leadership that's there. It's
nice.
Fantastic.
That's
it's really,
nice.
really good.
Let's talk about business success. In Tulsa, you stood out beyond the university, it sounds like, and became a pretty well-known business guy. Tell me how that happened.
Yeah, so after I graduated, basically from 92 through 99, I worked for the university in the capacity I was sharing, kind of as a liaison between the student affairs office and athletics. Then I left, and I was kind of in two worlds, because at that time I was also, during my graduate school days, I was working locally at a film studio, post-production house, and we were working on
doing
the
this
film.
kind of stuff.
Yep, doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, that I learned my bones and kind of got involved in advertising, and did some work, you know, in radio, very little work, some TV, but very localized. You know, nothing major, but it actually gave me an exposure that I probably would not have gotten otherwise. And one of the things that was great during that time, you know, computers were just kind of taking shape. The internet was just being created. We're talking the mid to late 90s. And so as a result, you know, the Windows programs were out there, and so software was being made to do cell animation, or you know, cell art.
Yes.
You know,
it used to be painted.
Used to be painted.
Each one,
right.
Yeah, very laborious.
Oh yeah, very. And so when it started getting into computers, we ended up converting our animation studio, which we were working with the local Cherokee and Choctaw Indian Nation to do the cell art, the actual paint, and we started converting to computer, and going away from film per se. And so as a result, we ended up kind of selling a lot of the film interests in transition to computer. And I was kind of the production manager and business manager on many different productions. We created a biblical series that we called it Zeke's Chronicles.
Really?
Yep, had 3 titles at that time. And so that's when the business community in Tulsa, they started to recognize me and say, hey, this guy is doing something that we haven't seen anywhere in the country. And we started getting in the catalog. Catalog was the thing. It wasn't the internet back then. Nowadays, everything
we're in a catalog.
Internet, but we were cataloging all across the country. We were in all of the Christian bookstores across the country.
DVDs.
CD-ROMs.
Oh, CD-ROMs
at the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we kind of transitioned into a company called Side Effects Interactive. And so that's where the publishing model that we use. And so I had electronic publishing background, and it was fun. It was fantastic. Ended up selling that, and after even getting some great accolades, and again, national and even international distribution in some of our titles, and we knew that we couldn't really keep up with technology the way it was. It was very expensive.
It's expensive, yeah.
And so we said, well, let's get out while
all this equipment that you bought, throw it out.
Throw it out.
There's new stuff.
Exactly. Every year.
It's all digital. It's all, whatever.
Absolutely. So as demand increased, and as we saw that the internet was beginning to kind of take over, as well as set-top platforms like the Nintendo, and the PlayStation
Game
and stuff.
Boy,
That's Game Boy. All that was coming in. I'm like, okay, we either have to invest to compete, or we need to divest, sell it, and then everybody, take their money and run. I was the guy who said, let's cash out and go and do something else. And that's when I got involved in financial services. And so in 1999, we started my own company, and it's a namesake from our distribution house that we had created at the time called Eagle Mountain Mortgage and Financial Services. And that's where we began to put together a team, and we did quite well.
So you were selling mortgages, and you were doing other financial planning, stuff like that.
Yes.
And did you find you had a knack for it? Did you study any of that?
So my degrees are in business administration and finance, and so I was like, this is something I kind of always wanted to do. And I kind of knew how to set up a business as a result of working in the digital software industry, and so we went right into it. Actually grew to be the one of the state's as far as mortgage origination concerned, we were number 2 to a company in Oklahoma City. But as far as top minority business owners in the state, I was recognized accordingly by the Tulsa World, the newspaper at the time. And
it sounds like you moved within groups of really interesting people. Tell me about the Native American presence and particularly in Tulsa, which is pretty substantial, isn't it?
Extremely substantial, yes. I mean, you had towns like Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and Morris, Oklahoma, Beggs, Muskogee. There's some good country songs out there, I think. That's,
I know.
Okie from Muskogee.
That's right.
Those are things that are inherent with any Oklahoman. The values that the Native American people have, the fantastic artwork and crafts that were created. And so, my role is, in particular, coming out of college, was to, try to bring those into the mainstream. And that's what we were trying to do with our cell animation art, our digital software creation. And so it was good. Unfortunately, we tried to go ahead and sell our film to companies like 20th Century Fox, and they were at that time kind of coming up with the Cartoon Network, which we see so many places and what have you. But it was a great time to kind of to build the framework where we have ongoing friendships, and again, everybody
hard to compete with Hollywood. Oh my gosh.
Difficult.
Very hard.
Yeah. They just throw money at stuff real
quick. They do, and then you can't afford to do that, and then there you are staring at it. Yeah. But tell me how you got into the insurance business, which is what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Insurance is kind of like law, There's different avenues that a person can go in, and financial services, as I said, I was kind of toggling in two worlds where we had real estate financing, so mortgage origination, whether it be for residential or commercial. We did both at the time. And then we toggled into financial planning. By financial planning, we specifically life insurance, annuities, estate planning to some degree.
With individuals.
All consumer-based, direct to consumer. And so, and that's always going to be a needed thing in our society.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so at this point, what ended up happening during the 2000s decade, we had a little thing called the Great Recession.
Yeah, and I remember. I was there. I owned a TV station then. Yeah.
A lot of things happened during that time. And let's just suffice it to say, I did lose the business during that season.
A lot of people did.
A lot of people did. I mean, if you're a mortgage originator back in 2006, 2007, the walls basically fell in on you.
They sure did, yeah.
And I know there was a month I lost 216 banks that had access to lines of credit and ability to finance homes in literally a 30-day period.
Wow.
And anybody who's in that industry back in that time,
they remember this.
They absolutely remember it.
Oh, yeah. And that was a grim time. Yeah.
It was. It was a tough time here in Nevada, I know.
It sure was.
Yeah.
At one point, 75% of the homeowners in Las Vegas were underwater. 75%.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So very tough time.
Very tough time. I ended up going bankrupt and had to. And as a result, I actually lost my marriage during that time frame.
I'm sorry.
And in those
tough
years.
times.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. But
the Lord help you through that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what people need to understand. You'll say, why do bad things happen to good people? And the answer is, I don't know. But what I know is the Lord will walk you through it. Jesus will walk you through it.
That's right.
And he did for you.
He absolutely did. Yeah. Without question. Had it not gone through that valley, had I not gone through that fire walk, I like to call it.
Yes.
It would not have purified me and brought me to where I'm at right now.
Yeah, he just puts you through the smelter, doesn't he? And purifies you.
Yeah, but it's good. We all need to do it.
Yeah, we do.
You can't have oil unless you press the olive. And that's what it was for me.
Yeah,
So I think.
But you came out of it, and that's when you went into insurance. At that point?
Yeah, I mean, I was in insurance. I got into health insurance.
Oh, okay.
So specifically during that time, like many people, I had to get a job. All right.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was looking for what's the right way to go. I got some certifications, and I started looking into Medicare, looking for Medicare supplement planning in particular.
Yeah.
And in 2009. I ran into an office of a Fortune 100 company called Humana.
Oh, okay.
It was at Humana where they taught me what I needed to know about Medicare.
That's great.
I actually wasn't even looking for a job. They gave it to me.
That's right. Well, the Lord gave you that job, didn't he?
Yes.
We need to take a brief break,
Okay.
Kris. We'll be back with Kris Bashford in just a minute. We want to examine Medicare a little bit because I got a couple of questions for him, being an old guy the way I am. We'll be back with Kris right after this.
What gave Joseph perseverance? What did he see in that well? A future of uncertainty? A life of fear and pain? Yet even when he was sold, he never gave up. Even after he was wronged, he did what was right. Even when he was all alone, he chose to believe. How did he find the will to carry on? Was it the promise? The dream? Or maybe it was his faith in God that helped him. Despite his circumstances, God used Joseph to influence the world. His story is a reminder that God is never far from us, that he is always in control, and he is always working, even when we don't see it.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. Kris Bashford is our very special guest today. He's got a fascinating life story. If you missed the first two segments, shame on you. Rewind and watch them both, because he just did a great job really talking about his life and relating to other people and helping them to understand what Christ is all about. And we'll ask you to do more of that in this segment. Let's talk about your faith journey and how it's matured. You obviously came to Christ in a major way at Oral Roberts University. And you went through the valley, as we talked about in the last segment. How has Christ helped you in your life from this point forward?
Well, actually, when you look, I think everybody, when they look at their life story, they know where they erred. I think you know when you weren't in tune with what's best in your life.
Sure.
And then you take a look and say, all right, I kind of like the prodigal son. Hey, at Dad's house, I wasn't eating pig slop, Yeah. And so that's kind of where I look at my life and say, hey, when I veered off, the enemy is always right there. He's going to make sure you get into trouble. He's not going to be there to get you out.
Yeah.
So that was me. And now when I look back at it, I realize God was with me there all along. He never left me.
Yeah.
It was just I got distracted.
Yes.
And so I feel that way today. He's always here with me.
Yes.
Anything I do, anywhere I go,
Yes.
any conversation I'm having,
Right.
he's ever present. And I believe my mother taught me that. I certainly saw a lot in my journey. There's so many different things that I got to do that a lot of young men and women don't get the opportunity. I remember occasion going to overseas to Germany, and as a result of Oral Roberts University summer missions, and I led a team out there, and we literally went and walked the street and just did the story of Christ in mime.
Really?
On the streets. Of Munchen, aka Munich, Frankfurt, Dusseldorf, Cologne. We were actually the first team from Oral Roberts who went right after the wall fell, and so
1989.
Exactly. So we went in '91.
Wow.
And we got to minister on the streets of East Germany.
Wow.
At that time, on the other side, and it was amazing at that time when because no American teams had been. From
and
Oral
a whole
Roberts.
generation.
And a whole generation.
Away from Christ, yeah.
Exactly. They still had things that were from the 30s. And you see that in, old movies and you don't realize it, but going there and actually seeing it, that they literally were 60 years to 70 years behind the rest of the Western world.
Wow.
That was amazing to a young man at 19, 20, 22 years of age. And to see that was what was going on, and then to just turn around and be able to minister to them and show them that there was more to life than their immediate surroundings that were there, because they had no clue on what the world was shaping up for. They had been closed out for all these years. They would do
and lied to in the media forever.
Absolutely, and propagandized. And so now us coming in, the only thing I remember, the running joke in our team was, "Oh, you're from Chicago?" The only thing they associate with Chicago was Al Capone. And so they were doing Tommy
Which was
Gun.
a while ago.
That was a long time ago, and that's all they knew.
Yeah.
And so to come in and says, no,
Wow.
the world has advanced, and so has but the love of Christ is never going to leave you, and He's right here with you. And we led so many to the Lord. And I would say that was a precursor, seeing the way people live, seeing their views, their worldviews.
Right.
That has stayed with me ever since.
Really?
And I actually get to use that in business today, knowing that they just don't know. And currently, in my understanding, helping people with their Medicare journey, which again, 20 million more people are going to be turning 65 in the next 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
People need to know those basics. Well, that's a form of ministry for me.
Sure.
And because if they don't know, just like they don't know about the love of Christ, if they don't know about the opportunities that are available to them in this great country of ours, we've got to help them understand that. So it's ministry. Yes, it's different, but it still has those same undertones of helping somebody move forward in their life.
Yeah.
And having a better quality of life.
And God looks at every job, every person's life as a mission field, doesn't He?
Yeah.
And do you have an opportunity to witness in your business life?
Yeah. You know,
because that's hard sometimes.
It is hard.
Yeah.
But it keeps you grounded. I'll walk into different in-home situations, and you'll see some tough stuff, gaping holes in roofs of places that people are renting. Half the houses just falling apart, and during the winter months it gets cold, and they're stuck there.
Oh, Lord.
People not being able to close windows, doors, not having the proper appliances, probably gas leaks and different things in the house, poor electricity. I walked into a guy's house. He was in an apartment, and all he had was a very small stove to heat himself, and he had a cot on the bed, and that was it. Had nothing else. Wow. And unfortunately, they're in poor health. You walk into homes, and people are due to neuropathy just running rampant in their body. They have limbs amputated, in wheelchairs, what have you, and so that there's plenty of opportunity for ministry. There's plenty of opportunity to try to help somebody and bring both social services and better health care to them. Yeah. And so the word says, if withhold not good from them to whom it is due, if it is in the power of your hand to do it. And so I look at my role that, hey, if I can help somebody, it is incumbent upon me to make sure that I leave them better than the way I found them.
Well, God bless you for doing it. Yeah. Everybody and American citizens are entitled to Medicare when they reach 65. So you can help them in that way. Just briefly, explain Medicare replacement and what that really does for somebody who's 65 years old.
Yeah, so with respect to Medicare in and of itself, again, it's a social program that anybody who is either disabled for at least 24 months or they're turning 65 and they have worked for at least 40 quarters in their life, so the equivalent of 10 years, or has a spouse or significant other that they can tap benefits from. If they're in that situation, then they basically are going to be able to receive hospital coverage and medical service coverage, such as doctors, ambulatory service.
Your company actually takes over for Medicare, right?
Well, it's not that we take over, but you do have two tracks that individuals who are qualified for Medicare can go on. One track is receiving original Medicare and being able to add supplemental coverage. Medicare is an 80-20 deal, very similar to what is available through their employers and what have you. We come in, I teach that you can either come in with a Medicare supplement coverage to pay that 20% that Medicare doesn't cover, or you can choose what's called Medicare Part C or Medicare Advantage, and that's kind of an all-in-one system. There's restrictions on one, less restrictions on the other. There's front-loaded monthly premiums on one. The other may not have little to no fees, but you have to pay co-pays every time you go and receive services. So we help people understand the differences, and different areas have different benefits, and so we help articulate what those are so that people can make a good decision.
I can sit here and testify that Medicare Advantage had a super part of my life. 2 years ago, I got COVID in a bad way, and I was in the hospital for 27 days. The sticker price, the hospital bill, was $700,000,
Yeah.
which is a lot of
seen it.
money. Yeah. And I think every now and then they'd ask me to write them a check for $290. I don't even know what that was for. I just wrote the check.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah.
They covered everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you guys can do. And it gives me shivers when I think about staring at a $700,000 hospital bill.
Yeah.
To go through life without having that coverage is a huge risk, because you just don't know.
You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we help people with that. And a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
And so just like, an individual may not know the story of Christ. They may not know what he did on Calvary. Well, a lot of people don't know what God has already done, or the taxpayer has already done for them, and but they need guidance. It needs to be shared. So I look at my ministry in business is the same thing as what we need to share with everybody regarding our faith.
Yeah.
And it's oftentimes an equal walk, and sometimes those two trails meet one another in homes. I've had a lot of prayer in homes of people that I've helped.
That's wonderful.
And, so it's definitely an active part.
And to see, and the cool thing about being in sales, and I spent a career in sales myself, is if you're a good person, which most salespeople are, they're there to help. They're not there to cheat people or take stuff away from people. They're here to solve a problem.
Exactly.
And if they can, it gives you a good feeling, when you really were able to do that. Can you mention your company, or do you have to be quiet?
Yeah, no, I can.
Okay.
I'm an assistant division manager for Physicians Mutual Insurance.
Okay.
And so they've been fantastic for me. I learned so much in my days at Humana, but then, now coming and joining Physicians Mutual 3 years ago, I get to go ahead and continue to take that step forward. So they've been a fantastic company, been around, those of y'all who've been, in
I've heard of them,
sure. Been around since 1902. Wow. Been taking care of people on Medicare since 1970. Yeah. So it's...
Where are they headquartered?
Headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, okay, that's it, yeah.
I operate out of our Scottsdale, Arizona office.
Oh, okay.
And I'm here in Nevada now because of, what we've been doing down there.
So you're expanding in this area.
So okay. Nevada, California, and soon Utah.
Is that right? Wow, that's great.
Just next couple months.
That's great. Well, I wish you nothing but the best. I mentioned that I'd like you to talk a little bit more about your faith journey. We have millions of viewers. The Lord's blessed us with distribution here and overseas, most recently in China, of all places, where there are Christians.
Absolutely.
Believe it or not. This is your camera here. Kris, let me impose on you, if you don't mind, and spend 3 or 4 minutes talking about the importance of Christ in your life, and maybe let people know how they can bring him into their lives.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're there and you're hearing this story, you're hearing my story, and you see yourself in that in some way, you see an occasion in your life, maybe you were brokenhearted, maybe you don't come from the most advantaged means, then that is something that you should thank God for, because that means you have an opportunity to change your environment. This is something that you can do. You don't need any permission from anybody, not from parents, not from bosses, not even from spouses or children. You make the decision that you can be who God has created you to be. And if you're not in the track where you need to do that, get a Bible, read the story of Christ, read what he did at Calvary's cross. Read the stories of the apostles, Paul, Peter, and how they went through some tough stuff, but ultimately they got to where God wanted them to be. And when you do that, when you decide that that's who you are, that you are going to serve a life filled with Christ's love, and not think more of yourself than maybe some people think, or you think of yourself, just realize that without Christ and without his blood shed at Calvary, you can't do it. It's not in the normal human nature to go ahead and do good and love others and show what God is in your life. That is only something that God and Christ himself can do for you. And so give the Lord a chance. to work in your life to become what God truly wants you to be. I know that's the way it was for me. I was not the best guy when I was having success, and God had to humble me. And once he did, it's kind of funny how your eyes get truly open and your ears, begin to really hear what God wants in your life, and you begin to pay attention. I hope you don't have to go ahead and hit rock bottom for that to happen. I hope that you will listen to what God is trying to do for you right now through my voice, through Dale, through this program, and that you begin to search out what your true destiny is. If you do that, I think you'll like where you'll end up. And remember, you have to do that through the love of Christ. And I believe that. I try to live it today. I'm not a perfect man, as no one is, but God is real. And he wants to care for you, and he wants to make sure that you have the best life and have the best living that you possibly can. And so with that, God bless you, and love those around you, and do a little bit for people that you don't even know. It's a great thing. All right.
Oh, God bless you, Kris.
Thank you, Dan.
Kris
Appreciate
Bashford.
it.
What a great man you are. And God bless you for all you do for other people. And we wish you nothing but success.
Thank you, sir.
In Arizona and California and Nevada and soon Utah.
Yes.
Did I get it all right?
Absolutely. You did. You did. Uh-huh.
With Physicians Mutual Insurance. So feel free to give them a call. We'll put up your phone number and all that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And if they want insurance, they can do that. But if they just want the most important thing, to talk to you about Jesus, you'll be happy to do that
Always.
as well. Oh,
Always.
what a great guy. Kris Bashford, ladies and gentlemen, terrific guest. And as I try to recall each and every episode of Las Vegas tonight to say, when it comes to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, please walk with him. God bless you.
Some mornings I get up, dark clouds are in the sky. All day the sun fails to shine. Then I think of that morning when I wake up over there in the land where no dark clouds rise. Won't be no need of the moon, no need of the sun. There'll never be no night. Heaven's gonna shine, and a mansion will be mine. Jesus will be the light. Some mornings I get up and trouble's at the door. That trouble hides the light of day. Then I think of that morning when I wake up over there in the land where troubles roll away. There won't be no need of the moon, no need of the sun. There'll never be no night. Heaven's gonna shine, and a mansion will be mine. Jesus will be the light. Some morning I'll get up in that land so bright and fair. The streets of gold are gonna shine, but the reason they'll be shining and heaven will be fair is that Jesus will be the light. There won't be no need of the moon, no need of the sun. There'll never be no night. Heaven's gonna shine, and a mansion will be mine. Jesus will be the light. There won't be no need of the moon, no need of the sun. There'll never be no night. Heaven's gonna shine, and a mansion will be mine. Jesus will be the light.
What is the Bible? What does it say? Why do people care about it? And what does it have to do with you? Christians claim the Bible was authored by God through human hands to share His story and help us understand who He is. It's a diverse collection of literature, including historical accounts, poetry, stories, and wisdom. It contains mind-blowing adventures like men being thrown into a fire-filled furnace, yet they weren't burned. It speaks of an old man who was lowered into a lion's den, only to be supernaturally protected and not eaten. It also tells the story of a little girl who had died, yet miraculously came back to life. The Bible is one book that contains 66 smaller books. It was written over a period of 1,500 years and authored by over 40 different people that range from shepherds to doctors, scholars, farmers, and kings. Completed 2,000 years ago, historians say it's one of the most reliable books on the planet. Over 10,000 manuscripts have survived the centuries. Compare that to only 235 known manuscripts of Shakespeare's First Folio. There have been over 5 billion copies printed worldwide, making it the most reproduced book in the world. The Bible is divided into two sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament is well known for its early history of the world and insight into life, giving wisdom such as don't murder and love one another. Other sections are a bit racy, such as your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. The first 4 books in the New Testament tell the story of Jesus through the perspectives of 4 of his closest friends. The rest of the New Testament is stories and letters revealing what Jesus' closest followers did after his time on earth. God used average people to heal all kinds of diseases and drive out demons. Many of Jesus' followers were killed because they dared to preach his message. Jesus claimed to be the human manifestation of God's unfailing love for humanity and the secret for true inner peace. He gave hope to the hopeless, love to the unloved, and then gave his life to bring never-ending life to everyone who would believe in him. That's where you come in. Beware, reading this book will change you. As you read it, its message of hope will come alive in you. That's what it's designed to do. Why not give it a shot and see for yourself what it says? It just might surprise you.
Shine, 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 Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
You've been watching Las Vegas Tonight with your host, Dale Davidson. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of our show. We so appreciate your loyalty to our program. To keep Las Vegas Tonight on the air, please go to our website, vegassaints.org, and click the Donate button. To send a check or money order, please make it out to Dale Wynn Davidson Ministries and mail it to 9030 West Sahara Avenue, Suite 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To suggest a guest to appear on the show or any other suggestions or questions, write to Dale at dalewdavidson@yahoo.com or call him at 702-480-3989.
Shine, Las Vegas, shine.